Hello everyone. Websy Wonky here. I haven't said that in forever. Welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, I know I've got some new subscribers, so welcome. I'm gonna do a little bit topic because for some of you who may not be aware with astrology, we are currently now in the Libra season of astrology. So those who are born in, ending of September to October are Libras, and then the other sign is Scorpio. But I wanted to talk about something that I recently have been learning myself. Everyone has their own, you know, their own path, their own ideas, their own ambitions, and everything that they're trying to accomplish in life. So this may not resonate with everyone, which I'm totally aware of that. It's just clearly, stating something that I'm learning personally in my day-to-day life and my experiences, and something I want to share more with people in general. Maybe one of these days I might write a book about it. I don't know, because I've been through a lot of stuff, and of course all of us have been, going on just in this year, a lot of transformation, a lot of, morphing into the butterfly effect, I feel like, and I like to put it for this year. It's been an ongoing thing. But I just want to share for the coming months ahead, just like the different planets are pretty much going direct. Well, some to agree. I mean, I'm not perfect at it, but are pretty much going like the way they're lining up. Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, are going like the way they're lined up, and everything has to do with, like Libra season is all about balance, beauty, Libra is associated with Venus, love, kind of like Taurus is too. So I wanted to touch on the subject of, like duality and the balance between yin and yang. Because it's like, I think some people get it misconstrued a lot of times, especially when you're, thinking of astrology, when you're thinking of spirituality. I think a lot of people don't really understand the laws and physics of the universe. I'm not a professional at it myself, like the whole, you know, nature of the universe. There's so much within the universe itself that, we'll never understand to a T, but something that I personally learned on my journey, with being on paganism, and, something that I've come to terms with in my own life, and the fact of my growth. And just, I want to share it more with people and not be afraid of, getting pushback in any way. Just being real. People can't take your realness, in my opinion. I just feel like people, are maybe in some way, I don't know why the word intrusive is coming to my mind, but like not really understanding that, we're all unique. We all have, things in our life that are not perfect. And I think a lot of us stoop up into this mentality that in some way we're like not indifferent, but like that we're in some way entitled to put down people just because they believe a certain belief. They're not really unified with everyone. And I'm not saying, just give up your opinion to believe everything what someone is saying. No, it's having an open perspective that everyone is connected. Everyone has their own path to work on, and their own path to, truly be on. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of us, don't really understand that. I mean, I'm still learning myself, as I said. I just feel like a lot of people, are easy to judge a situation or easy to judge what people do and say and not really get the facts. Because I recently been given information about something about my path and my journey and, my pretty much, what I choose to do, being, Wiccan and stuff. Um, it's almost been 2 years. In October, it'll be 2 years. It's nothing to be ashamed of. When I first came into, paganism as a whole, it changed for the better in my life. And a lot of people, you know, there's some people who support me and there's some people who don't. And it really doesn't matter at the name, where do I stand, in my truth, you know. And it's not about, fooling, like being everything that everybody wants me to be. And I'm slowly but surely, finding out that's not truly being your authentic self. When you can't make up your own choices, when you truly can't be yourself. And I know everyone has their obligations. Everyone has, some people, they really can't do that, especially when they have kids. They gotta take care of responsibilities. I get that. But those who are able, even in your truest form, we need to get back to this place of being authentic, regardless if it, hurts or offends people's feelings. Because for me, it's been quite a challenge. That's something I may not quite get myself, but it's challenging because I'm the type of very emotional person, a very semi-sensitive, hypersensitive to people. And, I don't want to sound like I'm being the bad guy. I don't want to sound like in some way I am not necessarily offending anybody, but, the stigma between, I care about people, what they think and stuff. Yes, but at the same time, I don't want to hurt anybody in the process. I don't want to feel people like I let them down in some way. But at the same time, I've gotten to that place, I've not truly been, you know, happy when I'm not my full potential. And it's easy to want to be, I guess, the nice person. And then people take a defensive when you are starting to be your truest form. And they don't like it because it infuriates their demons, I suppose. Which there's always going to be people like that, People always, having their opinion on what's okay and what's not okay for your life when they have no business. When it's pretty much your life, your, way of thinking. And I think people need to get out of their head when it comes to trying to impose upon others. And just be yourself. Who cares? And, I'm noticing that some people that I'm associated with, interact on a daily basis. They're going through the same thing where, a lot of people pass judgment because, whatever, they're young and dumb and immature, but yet, they're learning from their mistakes. But yet people want to pass judgment on them because they're doing something that infuriates other people's belief system. And I get it, you don't want to sound like the bad guy in any way, but at the same time, you don't want to suppress your true self or your true form. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people get the bad rap, especially people in the community, spiritual community, or people that have had addictions. Because I recently learned this with a friend of mine that I associate with. Like, I don't associate in that way, but like associate as, I'm around them, I have to put up with what they do. It's not by choice, just, I have to deal with it. and deal with people I don't really personally, want to associate. I want better people in my life, but sometimes you have to deal with people that you really don't want to deal with. Um, but yeah, a lot of stigmas around people and, you know, who have addictions, people who haven't made the right choices in their life. And I feel like a lot of people put these people down or categorize them just because they've been addicted. And there's a line, a fine line. I get it. When you're an addict, you do things that are questionable that a lot of people don't like because it's in the mold. It's in the stigma of addiction. But a lot of people, and I've learned this, they don't necessarily get in the bad crowds or associated with the bad crowds because they want to get high for the heck of it, or they want to get on crack because of the heck of it. A lot of people get in addictions or gangs or associated with people that they really shouldn't associate, not for the heck of it, but basically a lot of people nowadays, and there's a human need to communicate. There's a human need to associate with people, wanting to have a human connection with someone. And I feel like nowadays you can't really have that because a lot of social media, a lot of people don't really live in a community like we used to. And I feel like that's what's missing. Nobody can really learn from one another because everyone's learned their own stuff. And I just think the world needs to be more open-minded to you know expanding their consciousness, expanding their awareness of what a life with each other could look like, besides our differences, of course. But one of the topics I wanted to talk about today was basically the topic of the yin and yang aspects of ourselves. And I feel like there's a lot of misconception of what it is about the yin and yang. There's so many things out there, so many information, but I'm just pretty much going to real shortly put it in a mold of, my opinion about the yin and yang aspects of ourselves. Libra is pretty much the balance, the scales of the balance within ourselves. I have a Libra moon, so I can really understand this concept, especially if you have any Libra in your astrology chart. If you don't know your astrology, like your birth chart, because there's so many planets that affect everybody, and once we can understand, you know, what each planet affects us, we can truly understand ourselves on a broader scale. Like for me, my sun sign is in Cancer. So I am the mother of the zodiac. I operate and I associate with, anything that has to do with the family, anything that has to do with children, everything about food in general, decorations, house, home, family, everything associated with that I love and I'm all about. But, I have my um, own way of thinking on things, own way of perceiving, a very emotional based person, um, but very family oriented and emotional based. And it's easy to get in our emotions, it's easy to feel so much all at once, which I'm learning as a whole to really manage my emotions, not let my emotions dictate my choices in life. Because let's face it, the truth of it, when we live too much based off our emotions and not enough of logic, we screw up, half of our decisions, and we realize later down the road we really shouldn't have been that, dumb in our choices. But it's all about experiences. Um, Something personally I'm learning about the whole concept of yin and yang aspects of ourselves is the fact that we all come from matter. We all come from the forms of divinity within ourselves. And, everyone has their opinions. I get it. The opinion of God, source, you name it, universe. But I think once you start understanding and do your research and do your own soul searching on what is the law of the universe, what is source, what is, God Himself, even if you're not of any practice or faith, you come to terms with, we all have light and dark within us. We came from the shadows within ourselves. And I think a lot of people put a big rap, especially if you're in the paganism, that it's all about, worshiping the devil, cursing and hexing people, when it's all about nature. It's all about respecting life itself. It's all about connecting to, the laws and the laws of the universe and how it works. It's not necessarily what most people think it is. And if you look it up about witches and stuff, they'll pretty much say the complete opposite. So you really got to find your research on it. But yeah, one thing I've loved and learned about paganism is it teaches you all forms of aspects of yourself. It really dives deep on positivity, and that's what people don't see. They just see it as dark entity or evil, when it's something more positive than most people will really give credit to. And I think a lot of people are shying away from it. And then there's other people who are embracing it because they've tried religion, they've tried so many things. And the thing is, all religions, if you look at them, all religions point to one thing, the source of it all, And I think a lot of people misinterpret that. They don't understand, how the universe works. So that's in their timing to discover when they're ready to figure out, that we're all connected. We all had many lifetimes together. We've all had many experiences in life. And I think the problem is we're not really in tune with ourselves, first of all, because everything I've been taught, pretty much has been a lie. It's just experiencing for myself that, we are it in a bag of chips. We are pretty much embodiment of light and dark energy within us. And I feel like when people don't really truly embrace that for themselves, that they are their creator, there are their divinity within themselves, it changes you. And a lot of people don't really want to learn that or want to do research on, who we really are as a species. Everyone just wants to be set in their ways half the time, especially if you're overly religious. But yeah, paganism really helped me on a spiritual level, connecting with myself, seeing how, my thoughts do create my reality. And, there's no good thoughts or no bad thought. There's no good or bad. It's just, they're all togetherness. They're all it. Love is it. Love is the essence of everything. And everything we see with our human eyes, or the unseen as well as the seen, it's all it. There's no division. And something we're not taught in Christianity is that everything is a reflection of ourselves, the good, the bad, the ugly. And once people understand that, they start looking at themselves a complete different, like, you're me. And the whole, there's just so many things to talk about, when it comes to spirituality. And, like one thing, past lives. What is past lives? And where do we come from? And that we've had many lifetimes here on earth. Like in this life, I chose to be a woman. In another lifetime, I chose to be a man. And so forth. It goes on. We all experience one another at one point. Like if you were my family member, maybe I was your enemy at one point, It's so weird how it is like that, but yeah. But yeah, this whole thing people put on the subject when it comes to spirituality, that, you know, you can only have light for it exists, but you have to have both. You know, you have to have a balance to life. You can't just have light, light, light. No. And I think a lot of people put shame on if you're wearing a certain color. It's like they're being racist in some way, because I've had, you know, instances where people says, you know, I'm this, I'm that, when it's really not their own business. It's their own perception of their reality. And I'm learning just not to, you know, give a F what people think about that, because, hey, it's my life, you know? You know, I feel like what people don't understand, you know, is this this path that I've been on for almost 2 years, paganism, has really helped me on so many levels. And I feel like if people understand that, and it's like I've tried to explain to people, you know, my path, especially family, and I just feel like people aren't willing to listen because they're afraid of things they don't understand, and they're ignorant to the fact that, you know, this is what makes me happy. You know, this is what helps me improve my life. And you know, people have different opinions, and that's fine. It's just, this has honestly helped me and worked for me. Just like if, you know, people that get into different religions, you know, but I just feel like every religion points to the source. It's all connected, you know? And I feel like once you understand that, you start realizing, you know, telltale things. Everyone has, yes, different religions, but a lot of the religions come from the same thing. Like, they have similar teachings, you know? And the thing is, one thing I'm learning, and I'll try to close with this, is each archetype of different religions, like Jesus, Buddha, they all teach similar truths if you look at it, you know? And that's one thing that really blew my mind away about these different religions, is each of the archetypes or avatars or whatever, you know, really has similar teachings. And if they have similar teachings and they point to the same thing, it interconnects each other in some form or dynamic. And people don't get that. They think it's everyone's devised and everyone's in this mold, that, you know, we're all separate from each other when we're actually connected, you know? And I feel like if people wake up more to the fact that we're connected, it would stop a lot of things in the world. But, you know, there has to be this balance, even if it's, you know, evil within and out. You know, there has to have that balance. So I just feel like there may come a point in history where people start working with the differences of each other and start coming into unify. It may not be perfect. You know, maybe my 20 years down the road, maybe, or 40, 60, 50, who knows, we'll come to this place of heaven on earth. And that was the whole teaching. You know, a lot of these teachings in the Bible have other beliefs and other things that people don't realize, like, you know, our different chakra bases in our body. You know, enlightenment and the light within our soul has to do with chakras, the third eye, and coming to enlightenment. And like, nothing like what we've been taught is true. Like the whole thing with, you know, the dead of Christ shall rise first. Well, that's basically talking about coming into Christ consciousness. And when you look it up, if you don't really know what it is, like Christ consciousness, look it up, and it will blow your mind about everything that you've been taught is not so true. And Christ consciousness is within us, and it's not so much a Jesus, like plural. It's basically Jesus within us. It's basically the God source within us. And that's the thing, a lot of these archetypes like angels, spiritual beings that they talk about in the Bible and stuff, it's basically versions of ourselves. And I feel like that will ultimately help people wake up to the illusion of things that, all these archetypes people fight over, or religions, they're just, they're different forms of ourselves. Just like the evil of that goes on in wars and stuff. Everyone is just fragments of each other. There's no diversity. I mean, in this world, there is diversity. There's conflicts with people. But if people realize that when you look at someone, they're the essence of yourself. They're a form of yourself, whether it's an old self or a new self. It's looking at yourself. When you look at yourself through another eye and realize that person is myself. And yeah, that's hard to say, especially if you look at someone who, like, they are not someone that you want to associate with. They're just a lower vibration of yourself. Their old self. They're, whether it's egotistic based or it's like basically, what evil looks like. Like if someone, let's say a murderer, maybe in this life you chose not to be a murderer, but in another life you were a murderer. So at some point, they're you in another life, and they're seeing, or you're seeing them, what you used to be, until you came to realize that they're just like you in some form. We're all light and dark. We're all everything. I just feel like people complicate things when they separate everybody. Like, oh, this group is better than this group, or this group is, you know, apart from me, when they're really not. Whether it's, you know, it has to do with the LGBT community, whether it has to do with Satanists, whether it has to do with paganism, we're all connected. We all have our own path, our own journey, but we're all connected. And I just feel like people are trying to overtake the powers and think that they're better than everyone, and thinking that no one is the same, when in actuality we are. So anyways, I hope this topic was helpful to anyone who's, interested in anything that has to do with spirituality. It's not for everyone, but I hope you can take away something that can be, helpful throughout your day, and just encourage you, that, and, start telling people this. Let's try to get it across, that we're all connected. And, people want to argue that we're not. Well, when you point a finger at someone else, you're actually pointing at yourself. Whatever you put out in the universe, you're putting it out to yourself. So be careful that when you're mad at someone, or you think someone's indifferent, you're really doing it to yourself. And that really changes your ideas of, like, people who want to put ill intentions on someone, they're actually doing it to themselves. Because I've found that with myself, ill intentions of thinking this person, this, they're just a lower vibration of what you used to be like. I see that in some family members. I used to be like in this type of self-righteous attitude, thinking, everyone who does this, or wear pants, or do this, they're damned to be hell, and I'm on my high horse. I'm living the life that, is better than their lives. No one's actually like that. It's just, we got to get out of this self-righteous, egotistic base, low vibration, because it's not doing us justice. We're just, denying our true form of our true self, whether that's, light or dark, whatever we're going against. we're going against basically the law of nature when we feel like things don't exist when they really do. Especially light and dark. You know, it's like people get mad because you wear black lipstick. It's like too much black. Well, you're too much white. You know, what are we? Being racist? Because I recently had that happen. Someone was telling me I'm wearing too much black. Well, isn't that a form of racism in a way when people do that? I don't know. In my opinion, I just think it's what it is. It's a low vibrational. I'm not being a part of it. You know, people want to argue, that's on them. I just choose not to. You know, I choose to, to not think like that and realize that it doesn't matter where you come from, where your race, where your background is. We're all connected. You know, there's no better, good, or worse. We're all connected. And I feel like people need to really wake up to that, especially if they're, not open-minded. And that's a problem with society. They're not fully open to the truth. They're not really open to things that may seem skeptical, which I get it. We're all skeptical at one point about certain things that we don't understand. But if you don't really understand it and you're curious to what it is, because we're all curious about how does something work, and then some of us like, I don't want to touch that, it looks too dark. Well, you're not really understanding, where you come from. You think about a baby inside of a womb, the mother, it lives in darkness. So we basically came from darkness. There wasn't light in the womb, if you think about it. I never really thought of it until recently, but yeah. We didn't come from light. We came from the darkness within. Our mother was the portal of the spirit world, and that's a big responsibility, because some people don't realize that. But like when a woman, has a child within themselves, they're creating life in the essence of the void. And when that baby comes out, they're coming into the light. Yes, it's a dark world, or it's a dark place, but it's pretty much, the essence of shadow itself. And I feel like when people don't understand that, I don't know, they're just too naive and ignorant to understand the truth. That's one thing I'm learning about people is not everyone's going to fit into your mold. Not everyone's going to understand where you're coming from. And it's okay, because, some people weren't meant to be like everybody else, meant to fall into the crowd or fall into how society wants us to think. But we need to think for ourselves, personally, in my opinion, because I feel like it's easy, especially if you grow up in a family that they're overly religious, to easily get into that mindset. Oh, I have to do what the pastor said, or I have to do what my mom or dad wants me. But you're losing yourself. You're giving your power away when you can't really resign in your own body and your own willpower, and you're giving your power away. It's like, come on. It's like, wake up. anyways um Anyways, I hope this is helpful in some way to someone. Maybe you shine a light on things that seem dim in your life, or you feel like life doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm here to tell you that whatever you're going through is only temporarily, and that just learn to love yourself. Libra season is a great time to really get within ourselves and see the beauty within and without, and balance out the scales when it comes to loving each facets of ourselves, because it's easy as a Libran or a Librian, whatever you call it. It's easy to feel like we're not worthy of love, but we just have to be present in the moment, realize that love attracts love. Love is the essence of everything. So it's just understanding that, if we want certain things to come in our life, we have to realize it's our perception. If we want more love to come in our life, we have to believe that we are worthy of love. And if we want to attract, whatever it is in our life, wealth, and that's something I haven't quite, mastered in my own life, but I'm understanding, when we live and operate on fear, based emotions and anxiety, we create more of that in our life. And then we end up wondering why our life path isn't where it needs to be, why things are unknown, shaky, and rocky when we're living out of fear. When fear is the opposite of love, and when a lot of people create diversity between one another and separation and don't really want to connect with people, they're being the opposite of what love is. When they want to think that their religion is better than everyone else, and you're going to die and go to hell if you wear black, or all this diversity in the world. I just feel like when we get present with ourselves and we truly find the answers within ourselves, and that's something we're not taught. We're not taught to find the answers within us. It's always external. People put a crutch on it, as religious people would say, is, look to Jesus, look to the heavens, look to this. But they never point out, look within. And, there is a part of us that can deceive ourselves if we choose to. We just have to get out of this lower vibration of fear. And once we get out of that and we tap more into the heart space and love and the universal love, then we're listening to our soul. And our soul spirit is the one that's not the loudest. That's a different thing. Is the ego is loud. The ego wants to control, wants to analyze why this isn't working, why that, every chaoticness you can think of. Spirit is simply one that is softly speaking to us, and it's not a loud obnoxious voice. It's softly telling us what could help us and giving us like kind of a direct answer from source, God, the universe, creator within us, to let us know that we're on the right path. And everyone has their own way of thinking about what is the right path. Well, the right path is your path, nobody else. And in my opinion of the right path, are you on the right path? Yes. It's just sometimes we we get off of our goals and our passions, and we start thinking low base energy of thinking, oh, I gotta please this person, I gotta be obligated to this and that, when we're not really living in our true potential, and we're living based on everybody else's philosophy instead of our own, or everyone's religion, or everyone's fear-based anxiety, when we should really live by you know who we truly are, the god or goddess. And just like, I recently told my boyfriend this, trying to encourage him, because he doesn't really like his job, and trying to help him to manifest things that he wants is, king and queen sits on their throne. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to walk around with their head cut off like a chicken and panicking because they don't have enough to provide for their family or enough to provide for themselves. What they do is just sit on their throne and chill, and like, I don't have to, I mean, yeah, you have to work, of course. Yes, there is work and process, but you know what I mean? Get in that mentality that you're the queen or king of your life. And you don't have to force things to happen. You don't have to push your way up the corporal ladder to gain all this wealth. It comes to you naturally. When you're in that right mind frame, it comes to you without expecting it. Just let things flow and let things be as they are. Because that's one of the biggest hard lessons I've recently learned, is just let things flow. And already get in that mindset and tell yourself each day, whether it's affirmations, whether it's when things are chaotic, you know, I'm where I need to be. I'm accepted, I'm loved, I'm forgiven. You know, things naturally come to me. The universe, has my back, or whatever it is, to coax yourself in believing that, you know, you don't have to live in fear. You don't have to live in anxiety. And that's what the society wants to teach people is, oh, you got to do this. You got to work your way up to the ladder when it's already there. You think of a king and queen. They're just simply living in the moment. They already have everything they need. It's just when we think we don't, that's when we start getting into this idea that we have to work till we're dead. Um, no, we can enjoy life. It's just a matter of balancing it out when it comes to, your passions. I feel like if more people got back into their passions, doing what they love instead of doing what they dread and hate, then people would fully be in their full potential if they truly, you know, ultimately operate from the heart space. And people tell you, don't listen to your heart, it will lie to you. Well, it depends on what voice you're listening to. If you're listening to fear based voice, egotistic voices that always wants to criticize you, always wants to put you down, demons for say, always, hurting yourself or putting yourself in a state of being that's punishing yourself for some reason, or you're not good enough, you're going to attract that. But if you're listening to love itself, what tells you who you are loved, you are worthy, you are accepted, you already have enough abundance, then you don't have to. That's living in the heart space. That's living in love. That's living in the Christ consciousness, per se. And a lot of people don't get that. But yeah, I haven't really mastered, and there may not be a time where I master it all. It's just coming into that understanding that you attract whatever you bring into your life. If you think you're in lack, you're going to be in lack. If you think life is garbage, it's going to be garbage. I'll close with this. I had a friend who posted on Facebook, some people post drama and stuff, post that life is garbage. I'm like, yeah, life is garbage because you're thinking life is garbage. I mean, I get that it's very hard to change your perception. It really is. That's probably the one difficult thing to really master. But if you really start invoking positivity in your mind and saying affirmations and saying things, I know it sounds shitty, like stupid, doesn't make sense, but when you start tuning into a higher frequency, that you are worthy, you are accepted, you are